Greg Joyce covers the Lehigh Valley IronPigs for the Express Times up in the Lehigh Valley. And at the All-Star break, we figure, hey, why not take a look at some of the guys who could be coming up for the Phillies here very shortly. And we know, Greg, that the Phillies major league team is playing a little bit above their head, but some of the minor league teams are playing very well too. And boy, at this time last year, it was not a great, a lot of fun product up there at the Lehigh Valley and down at Reading. It seems like those two teams have just as much interest as the big club.
Yeah, it's a totally different scene this year in Lehigh Valley with the IronPigs. They're 13 games over 500 at the break. And, they just really have, some real prospects, whereas the last few years it's been a lot of minor league veteran guys trying to hang on to that dream, or guys who maybe didn't work out in the major leagues. But, with this year, with obviously, three of the top prospects in the organization with J.P. Crawford, Nick Williams, Jake Thompson, they're putting together a really good product. And a lot of other guys like Andrew Knapp, Cam Perkins are stepping up. Rock Stassie's starting to play well. So, a lot of those guys that, you've heard about in the organization for a long time are finally at these, AA and AAA stages. So it's pretty exciting. And obviously Reading has the best record in all of organized baseball. So, it's an exciting time for those guys that, that are real close to making that next stage.
Let's start with Jake Thompson. A lot of people think that he might be the next guy called up. If he got called up tomorrow, do you think that he is ready to go?
Yeah, absolutely. He the first month here, he kind of struggled a little bit. He went back to some film to watch what he was doing right at Reading at the end of last year after he came over from the Texas organization, and he adjusted his mechanics a little bit, had a good stretch, and then had one, fairly bad start at the end of May. And then ever since then, his last 7 starts, he's been dominant. I think it's 49 in the third innings, and he's allowed just 4 earned runs. He's not the flashiest pitcher out there, but he just gets the job done. He's kind of a workhorse, gets out of jams. He's got good fastball command and a slider that really bites. When he's on, those two pitchers are working really well for him. So he's been great over the past month and a half. So I think, whenever that next spot is available with the Phillies, whether it's if and when they trade Jeremy Hellickson or if there's an injury up there, I think Thompson will be the next guy to go, and he certainly looks ready.
Greg Joyce is with us. We're talking IronPigs baseball, the Phillies AAA affiliate. And how about Nick Williams? Greg, if you could tell us a little bit about him. A lot's been made of him recently, but when do you think that he'll be ready to help out the big league club?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't be surprised if he's with the Phillies by the end of the summer. Certainly a September call-up at the very least. He's really flashed, what he brings. He's been playing really well. He has a good bat, quick bat. He plays the field really well, which I think is maybe an underrated part of his game. He's been able to play all 3 outfield positions and do it well, and he's made some great diving and leaping catches out there. He's shown a good approach at the plate. A lot of times he's pretty aggressive up there, which, is good and bad, but I think overall it's, a good thing. It doesn't always see too many pitches, in the count. When he sees a pitch that he thinks he can hit, he's going to be swinging for it. He's definitely a confident kid, which, I think most of the time can work in his best interest. I think he's, fairly, close to being ready. I think they're just trying to get him some more consistency down here and develop that so that he's really ready to go when he gets to the Phillies.
Greg Joyce is with us. He covers the Lehigh Valley IronPigs for the Express Times up in the Lehigh Valley. And Crawford's obviously maybe one of the top prospects in all of baseball. And he went from Reading, made the jump up, struggled a little bit at the beginning. Talk a little bit about what you've seen from him from start to where we are now up at that AAA level.
Yeah, his first month or so here, he was batting low 200s, hovering right around 200 actually for a while. His plate discipline was always stayed pretty good. He has a nice eye. He doesn't jump at pitches. If a walk is there, he'll take it. So that was always consistent, but he was, he wasn't batting as well as he could have. But over the last month, he's just gone on an absolute tear. I think it's over his last, 100-plus at-bats. He's batting well over 300. A lot of multi-hit games. He had 2 home runs in the last week leading up to the All-Star break, so he's starting to show a little bit of that power that he had showed, in the other levels. and his defense has been really strong. He's made some plays that look like they're patented Derek Jeter plays, going deep in the hole and throwing off balance. He had one the other week where the throw hit Brock Staffy at first base in the chest, and he had a second to spare on the runner too, and he'd gone, into shallow left field to make the play. It was pretty incredible. So, when he came up, I think the defense was a big emphasis before he left Reading to get him more consistent. The errors seem to come on the routine ground balls, maybe some careless mistakes, but he hasn't really shown too much of that at AAA. And when he does make those plays in the hole, they're pretty special. So you kind of see that full package starting to come together, and he's another guy that I wouldn't be surprised, at least a September call-up with the Phillies, if not sooner.
And that's what I was going to ask, Greg. Do you think he can handle himself at the major league level right now?
Yeah, I would think if something went down and they needed him up there right now, he could do it. He's got really good plate discipline, so I think that would help him up there, and the glove will play, I think, up there. But I don't think it hurts getting him more at-bats down here, at least for the time being. And, this team might be putting together, a potential playoff run, which a lot of the guys did that are here. They did that at Reading last year, and they talked about how much that kind of helped them. I mean, you talk about development at the minor leagues, but there's also an element of, developing winners. And if you can get a core group of guys down here that are going to be in the major leagues soon enough, you get them to play together in a playoff run down here, I think that can go a long way. Obviously you want to see what these guys got at the major league level, but I don't think there's any rush, with the Phillies not being in contention for anything this year. So I think it'll be an interesting decision to make whether those guys go up, in August or if they wait until to see what this team does potentially with the playoff run and getting them used to playing that, playoff-like atmosphere in baseball.
Greg Joyce is with us. We're talking IronPigs baseball as Lehigh Valley is the AAA affiliate of the Philadelphia Phillies. And you just touched on something there, Greg, that I want to ask you about because Mike Gill and I were down here near Atlantic City, and at one point in time they had the Atlantic City Surf. And, a minor league baseball team of any level, you're going to see guys who are on the rise. You're going to see guys who are on the decline. There's just a hodgepodge of guys like that. And if you look through the Lehigh Valley roster, you see a lot of names that have been up with a big league club or a guy like Severino Gonzalez that just got sent back down. What's it like? What's the mix and the chemistry like on this team with that blend of players?
Yeah, I think, a lot, especially at AAA where a lot of the guys will be one step away from making that jump up there, and half of the guys might have already been to the major leagues and are back down. So there's always that potential for, some discord a little bit with guys that have come back down, maybe being a little sour, and guys that are going up, still chasing that dream. But I think the IronPigs have a good situation going right now. The guys that they have that have been up, are still good clubhouse presences. Edwin Mujica, who's spent so many years in the major leagues and was a major league all-star at one point. He's been the IronPigs closer all year, and he just made the AAA all-star game down here, and he's a really good veteran presence for some of those relievers in the bullpen. And he's in the clubhouse and everything. He's kind of a good guy to go to for those players. Cedric Hunter, he was with the Phillies to start the year and came down, and he's actually been playing real well of late too. And he's a guy that Nick Williams has kind of gone to, with the whole when he was benched a few times over the last few months. Cedric Hunter has been a guy that Nick Williams has gone to now, and Manny Burris too is another one that some of these guys who have been around and been up in the major leagues and seen a lot more, and they can give some advice to these younger guys that are kind of up on the rise. And it seems to be a good situation how they have it now with a good mix of prospects and maybe the veterans where you have that good balance.
Greg Joyce is with us taking a look at the IronPigs, the Phillies at the All-Star break. There's a lot of names on this roster that have been in Philly with Araujo, Buchanan, Severino Gonzalez, Hinosa, Adam Morgan, Mujica, James Russell. We also know that some of the position players, guys like Manny Burris and Darren Ruff, Cedric Hunter, Dave Lowe, a lot of these guys, Darryl Sweeney as well was in the Utley deal. Who are some of the other guys, though, that, other than the guys we mentioned that maybe we didn't talk about that you think could make it to the big leagues at some point?
Yeah, I think one, I mentioned Mahika was going to the All-Star game. There's 3 IronPigs going. It's Mahika, Andrew Knapp, and also Cam Perkins. He was a pretty high draft pick. I think he was a 5th or 6th rounder a few years ago. Doesn't have the heralded prospect status that a lot of these guys have. He had come up to the IronPigs 2 years ago and went through a really bad stretch of hitting, and so he spent all of last year in Reading kind of refining his swing and getting things back on a good footing. And he started, he's had a really good year this year. He started off real hot. He had a 15-game hitting streak at one point, was batting high 300. It's kind of come down to I think he's batting around 280 now, 290. He's a guy who's played out all 3 outfield spots here, showing he can, make some great defensive plays, and he has some pop. I mean, he's hit for some homers and some, good amount of doubles, but he's just a good contact guy, and another good guy who's, been around the clubhouse, and I think he's got the potential to go up at some point, whether it's, September of this year or maybe something next year when they need a spot. Brock Stassi.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say Brock Stassi is another guy who's he was a senior sign out of college, real late draft pick, and he's always kind of flown under the radar a little bit, but I think he's one of the best defensive first basemen in the league right now, and his bat has started to come on of late too, so he's another guy to keep an eye on.
2 quick guys. Ben Lively is a guy who you heard a lot about. I'd like to see where his development is. And then you mentioned Knapp because they do have Alfaro. Cameron Rupp has had such a good year. Where does he kind of fit in?
Yeah, Knapp, he the first 2 or 3 months here, he was working every day with John Miserock, who spent the first few months being the bench coach here, and now he's at Williamsport on their coaching staff. But he was a former Major League catcher. Those 2 guys would work every day before the game, kind of on receiving and blocking balls on the dirt and everything like that. And you can see the difference it's made in Knapp. I mean, he's a lot better catcher now than he was at the beginning of the season, I think. He's kind of handling the ball better. And he started off with a real hot bat, and I think it kind of slowed a little bit the second and third month, but that started to pick up again of late. So it's all kind of coming together for him. It will be interesting. Obviously, Alfaro's having a great season down at AA, so you try to see long-term where those guys might be. But I think, at least for now, I think Knapp's going to stick there and see what he can do. Having too many catchers is a nice luxury to have. You never know what's going to happen with injuries and stuff like that. So I think Andrew Knapp has had a pretty good year here, showing what he's able to do and showing some improvement, too, being able to take the coaching and taking it and everything. And he's certainly shown, a difference over the last few months here.
Real quick, Greg, any guys at AA that you think could come up soon?
Obviously, when you think of AA, I think the first 2 guys you think of are Dylan Cousins and Reese Hoskins, the real-life Bash brothers down there. It's pretty amazing what they're doing, trading home run. One will go up in the home run lead, and then the next day another will hit 2 and leapfrog them. So I think they have a really good situation. I'm not sure if they'll be coming to AAA this year, especially with the run that Reading has going. I was talking about guys benefiting from those playoff runs, and I think those guys could benefit from what Reading is going to be able to do down there. It probably depends on what the outfield situation looks like, come August or anything like that. The IronPigs have had a bunch of outfielders this season, so they'd have to move some guys if those guys are going to come up. But I think those are the first 2 you look to. Is just, they're having great years down there, and I think a lot of people talk about Reading being a hitter's ballpark and seeing, if those home runs will play in a different kind of home stadium. So that'll be an interesting thing to see whether they come up to the IronPigs this year or next year. But I think those are the 2 guys to watch.
Well, I love that you mentioned John Miserock, by the way, in your comments. Rock and I worked together out in Omaha when he was the manager of the AAA Omaha Royals way back in the day. So any John Miserock talk is good with me.
Yeah, he was a great guy to have on that coaching staff, and I know Andrew Knapp certainly benefited from that. So, it was some tough love there, I think, but I think he really took the coaching in and has benefited from it.
Greg Joyce from the Express Times covering the Lehigh Valley IronPigs here at the All-Star break. The Phillies of the future could be faster than some anticipate, as he mentioned. Thompson, Nick Williams, and maybe even J.P. Crawford getting a call up here shortly. Thanks, Greg.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on, guys.